Howdy. This is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, and today it is Thursday, March 19th, 2026, and I wish you a very, very happy National Automatic Door Day. Today's show is live on YouTube. The Ohio State Buckeyes suffer another gut-wrenching blow. It's a loss to the ninth-seeded TCU Horned Frogs, 66-64, the final in Greenville, South Carolina. Today's live show just reacts to the game, gives you a chance to kind of sound off in the comments as well and get someone to talk about Ohio State basketball after a brutal loss. It is a brutal end to the season. And most of all, I think to me, it is a brutal end to Bruce Thornton's career as an Ohio State Buckeye. The captain, one of one, the last of his kind, Bruce Thornton, ends his career at Ohio State, dedicating 4 years to the program, finally gets to the NCAA Tournament, and has a chance to win the game for Ohio State, misses a shot. We will talk about that play, of course, on today's show. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe on YouTube, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. This is the only Ohio State basketball exclusive podcast recapping and previewing every single game Ohio State plays throughout the season. Now the season is over. So what happens? We immediately go to the transfer portal. So we will cover the transfer portal in its entirety during that window. And then we'll have the summer guest series. We will have head coach Jake Diebler, assistant coaches, other staff members, players, media members, former players. Well, I think the summer guest series is going to be pretty big this year with some new connections that I've made. So highly recommend that you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. You can also go to viewsfromtheshotpodcast.substack.com. If you're already there in the insider subscriber chat, be advised, winner's going to get a month free on the insider subscriber chat if they have the best bracket within our group there, doing a tournament challenge on ESPN. So part of the reason I recommend you get there, I also recommend you get very, very quickly, and that's as specific as I'd like to be on that for transfer portal news and notes and things like that. I've already dropped what do I think Ohio State's going to do, who are some players that they may or may not target, stuff like that. Drop some intel and some scoops and nuggets, stuff like that. So get to views from the shop podcast.substack.com. You can sign up completely free just to get more content on Ohio State basketball, and of course sign up for a paid subscription if you're into that as well. The Buckeyes suffer a 66-64 loss to the TCU Horned Frogs. Look, that's the outcome. Is you face a team in TCU for Ohio State that I said offensively, I don't think they're a bad team necessarily, but you look at the numbers coming into this game where they were so good scoring in transition. They were so good scoring off of turnovers. They were so good scoring on second chance opportunities that I thought if Ohio State could stop TCU in those areas, there'd be no shot TCU could beat Ohio State in a half-court game. TCU's half-court offense really was not that impressive, but Ohio State could not pull in the offensive rebounds, and that's how TCU was able to get out to that lead in the first half. The offensive rebounding rate was very, very good for TCU in this game to start it off. So highly frustrating game in the first half. But then in the second half, you start to have hope, and then the hope is down. This is the play. This is the time with seconds left in a game on a baseline out-of-bounds play on the other side of the floor. He did almost go in. I mean, you give Bruce Thornton credit. He almost got that shot in. But everything that happened in this game, you look at the offensive rebounding. You look at the lack of production from Bruce Thornton. You look at your leading scorer having 15 points in this game, and you're still in it down the stretch, and that was the best play that you had drawn up. I didn't like it whatsoever. Again, I'm not the X's and O's guy, and I don't know if that was executed perfectly, and if that's what they drew up, and it's just, to me, bad, or maybe that wasn't exactly what they drew up. Maybe they wanted Tilly to catch it deeper. Maybe they wanted Bruce Thornton to get the ball deeper. I don't know what the case is. Maybe it was supposed to go to John Louis Jr. I don't know. But regardless, what you saw to close out this game from Bruce Thornton is unfortunately what we have seen from a head coach in Jake Diebler for a couple of years now. Second full year as head coach. And I'll elephant in the room, okay? I'm not going to sit here and call for Jake Dietler's head. If you're new to this show whatsoever, then that may be disappointing to you. If you listen to the show, you know my take on Jake Dietler. My take on Jake Dietler continues to be this. It's that he will continue to get better as a head coach as the games go on. I think we saw that this year. I think the perfect example of that was Ohio State getting demolished at Iowa less than a month ago. And then last week in the Big Ten tournament, Ohio State gets up, on 16 points in Iowa, and they get punched and punched and punched, but Ohio State delivers punches back, and they win the game. It wasn't pretty down the stretch, and Iowa could probably argue that they think they should have won that game. But at the end of the day, we're seeing from Jake Dietler, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that he's perfect. It doesn't mean necessarily that he is an elite head coach or a great head coach or a good head coach or anything like that. But I think in this game, it's another example of Jamie Dixon is on one sideline, Jake Dietler is on the other. Jamie Dixon is coaching his 31st NCAA tournament game. Jake Dietler coaching his first NCAA tournament game. There's just differences in experience. And I think that's what we saw in this game. And this morning, I sent a message in the Insider subscriber chat, or a video rather, with kind of some closing thoughts. And the more I thought about this game, the more I got nervous, because the more I thought about the fact that, hey, Ohio State, I think it has more talent. I think Ohio State has better shooters. I think Ohio State has better offensive flow than TCU. But if TCU stops that and this turns into a rock fight, guess what happens? Pretty much everything is neutralized. Bruce Thornton, he's neutralized. And John Lilly Jr. did 15 points, 6 to 17 from the field. Neutralized. Who are you going to go to? That's when your defense has got to step up. And TCU only shot 40% in this game, but it was good enough because, quite frankly, TCU had the better coach. And I came to this game on the preview show talking about how Jamie Dixon is a highly underrated coach. And the coaching advantage, it goes to TCU coming into this game. And at the end of this game, that's, in my opinion, what separated these two teams. By 2 points, Ohio State had the talent. Ohio State was favored. Ken Palm, Bart Torvik, look wherever you want. Ohio State should have been the better team, should have won this game. But when you play it on paper, and especially when you see how physical this game was allowed to be in the first half, that's in large part what leads to Ohio State losing this game. So, yeah, I'm not going to call for Jake Dietler's head. I know that's not the popular opinion. I know that we can't clip this and run with it and go post it elsewhere, whatever. Like, I get all of that. That's never been the type of show that I put on here. So even after today, it's not going to be that way, as frustrated as I am. But Jake Dietler got outcoached by Jamie Dixon in this one. Specifically, I couldn't even tell you how. So maybe that makes it a bad take for me. But there's no question that the better coach was on one sideline, and that's that. At the end of the day, I'm not calling for Jake Dietler's job. I don't think that at all. That's where this conversation needs to go at this point, because one game, let's say Ohio State wins this game, okay? Let's say that for whatever reason, Ohio State wins 67 to 66. Maybe that shot by Bruce Lee. Maybe that final play looks a lot more smooth. It flows a lot better, and the Buckeyes get a shot off. Maybe TCU just misses a shot down the stretch, or they miss a free throw or two down the stretch, and Ohio State ends up pulling this game out. Maybe the Buckeyes get a shot from Deverell that goes in instead of rimming out. Whatever the case may be, right? Let's say Ohio State wins that game. How dumb would have everyone looked at halftime and in the first half? And I complained. Look, in the Insider subscriber chat, we exchanged, I think almost 300 messages today, live, talking about the game. It's great. I love those guys. I appreciate them so much. But we were upset too. We were mad too. And at one point, I think I saw Ivan Degovin, Brandon Nolan, Gabe Cupps on the floor at the same time on my television screen, on my Ohio State Buckeyes, in the NCAA tournament game, and it's not like 92 to 66. Why? Stuff like that, it's frustrating. There's so much frustration. But we cannot just let go of how Ohio State got to this point. Think back to 3 weeks ago, February 26th, when Ohio State got destroyed by Iowa at Iowa. And to me, it felt like all hope was lost. I was very, very critical of Ohio State after that game. I was very, very critical of Jake Dietler after that game. And I think we sat down after that game, we went to bed, woke up the next day, and we said, man, this team is going to miss the NCAA tournament again, and Bruce Thornton is never going to the NCAA tournament. And then what happened down the stretch? We saw Ohio State pick up a win against Purdue. We saw Ohio State crush Wisconsin. We saw Ohio State pick up another quad one win against Iowa in the Big Ten tournament. We saw Ohio State come 4 points away from beating Michigan. They crushed Penn State down the stretch, which is just doing what you're supposed to do. We saw Ohio State play its best basketball late. So guess what? I'm going to take that momentum that I saw, and I'm going to let that 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 games down the stretch take what? Let's just do math here. Let's say it's 7 games. And Ohio State just played what? 31, 32, 33 games. I'm going to let that take a fifth of my opinion. And I'm going to let today's game, which is one of now what, 34, take 3% of my opinion. And one half should take 1.5% of your opinion. Yeah, I get it. I know this game is frustrating. I know the season ending this way is frustrating, but you can still be frustrated with how the season ended. You can still be frustrated with Jake Diebler while not going all the way and jumping off the cliff of Jake Diebler needs to be fired. Because if you've been saying that the whole time, that's fine. That's fine if you've been saying that the whole time. But if you're saying because of 5 minutes, because of 4 seconds at the end of the second half, because of 5 minutes in the first half where Ohio State got pounded, that Jake Diebler should be fired, then I get to go right back at you and say, what about the 11-0 run? What about the 10-1 run that Ohio State went on? Or the 15-something run that Ohio State went on. So I think that as frustrating as this loss is, we have to look back on the entirety of the season. Ohio State wins more than 20 games. They have their best record in Big Ten play in several years at this point. And they make the NCAA tournament. You're seeing strides from Jake Diebler. It's an inexperienced coach, and I believe that he's going to continue to get better. But this whiplashing ourselves to death over the status of Jake Diebler, you can do it as long as you realize it's futile. We're not going anywhere. Jake Diebler will be back next year. I'm not breaking any news here. Jake Diebler is going to be back with Ohio State next year. You might see some changes elsewhere, but that's how it's going to be. So if you're gonna complain about Jake Diebler, just know that you're complaining into thin air, in time, in space, and all that stuff. So rebounding was a big factor in this game. The final 4 seconds, a big factor in this game. You kept Ohio State from doing what it wanted to do in this game as well. You saw an Ohio State team that did end up scoring 34 paint points. Bruce Thornton was able to get into the paint as well and play pretty well early on for Ohio State. He was pretty timid, though, at times as well. But Bruce Thornton had a nice play for the Buckeyes. We saw Maury Bynum get in the paint. He was really good for the Buckeyes. 34 paint points, not anything to complain about for Ohio State. But when you make 6 triples, it makes it really hard to extend your ability to play and win the game against TCU. They go 10 of 11 from the free throw line. It felt like in the first half, everything felt hard for Ohio State. That was my fear coming into this game. I should have touched on it more in the preview show. But my fear in this game was exactly what you saw. Ohio State ices out Bruce Thornton in the pick and roll. And they apply pressure, and they blitz you a little bit. And they play with such a high motor defensively, and the physicality was allowed in this game, which you can complain about the officiating all you want. The officials called it, I think, pretty evenly on both sides. Now, down the stretch, it felt like some fouls on Ohio State maybe would have gone for TCU's way. Not even close. Not even close to something that we can complain about at this point. It was TCU playing more physically than Ohio State did. So the pressure, the versatility, the motor that TCU played with, it was going to be really, really hard to deal with, and Ohio State really struggled to deal with it. It's the play of Bruce Thornton. Bruce Thornton scores 10 points. He has 4 assists, 4 rebounds, makes 3 of 9 shots from the field in this game. Bruce Thornton is not a guy I'm going to complain about whatsoever. This was a game that I envisioned. I said this on the preview show, okay? I said Bruce Thornton probably is not going to get to 20 points in this game. Bruce Thornton, if he scores 14, I think I said in the Insider subscriber chat today in a video, I said, hey, look, if Bruce Thornton scores 14 points but has 6 assists, I think Ohio State wins this game because it means he's making good decisions. He's finding guys elsewhere who are open, and that's the type of game that you need from Bruce Thornton, because I thought for sure TCU was going to do its absolute best to neutralize Bruce Thornton, and it did in this game. And you can talk about Thornton taking 9 shots. You can talk about his passivity in this game. I don't think that there was really anything there for Bruce Thornton to take. He's not the most slippery. Bruce Thornton has never been a guy who's really much of an ankle breaker. He's a guy who can take his frame and every game, every national game that Ohio State gets the color and play-by-play go, he's a running back. Oh, he's a fullback. Shut up. Oh my gosh. It's just a lazy take. Bruce Thornton is not the most agile out there. Okay. He's not the most, he's not the best at creating off the dribble and making someone mid-range. What he's good at doing is muscling into the paint and finishing. And unfortunately, TCU did not allow that in this game. So this was a game where I said coming into it, look, TCU is just going to have to find, or Ohio State is just going to have to find ways to score without Bruce Thornton being the focal point, and he wasn't in this game whatsoever. We did see a good game out of John Lowry Jr., 15 points, 6 assists. Again, I don't think he's a point guard. I think he's specifically a shooting guard. We saw him turn the ball over how many times in this game? Just once. That one turnover came where he was driving in off, I don't know if it's a pick and roll or what, but looking to dump it off. It's a loose ball taken away. TCU gets it back. John Lowry Jr. was good in this game. There's no question about that. But you just need more. I mean, you look what happened in this game. Bruce Thornton scores 10. John Lowry Jr., 15. Amari Bynum, 12. 10 for Christoph Tilley, 14 for Devin Royal. The only points scored off the bench were Gabe Cupps with 3. That's why I said coming into this game, Christoph Tilley is the most important player for Ohio State. Because off the pick and roll, Christoph Tilley was going to have opportunities, and he did in this game. He had 9 shots, 4 of 9, Christoph Tilley. If Christoph Tilley goes 6 of 9, Ohio State wins this game. If Christoph Tilley goes, and I'm not even going to complain much about Christoph Tilley, he rebounded relatively well, 6 rebounds. He also dished out 6 assists in this game, so 10, 6, and 6 for Christoph Tilley. But the frustration level I think I have with Ohio State at this point is the inability to do anything outside of Bruce Thornton. I mean, Bruce Thornton is the motor for this team, and he always has been. Now for 4 years, he's been the motor. Not at all times, but for most times. Obviously, you had Bryce Sensabaugh there 4 years ago. Man, how time flies. But this you were going to have one deciding factor in this game, and it was in this one. Would Ohio State be able to handle TCU's pressure? Would Ohio State be able to score in the half court, in the pick and roll, without Bruce Thornton being the focal point? And the answer in this case was no. Ohio State was not good enough in this game whatsoever. TCU picks up the win, 66-64. I don't even know what other thoughts I have. I didn't print anything out. I said we're going live. People are going to be half listening to this anyway, if it's live, because you're probably watching Duke and Siena. I don't even know what the score is in that game right now. And I don't even know what other games are on right now. But look, here's a good thing for the future's bright, I still think, for Ohio State. And look, we'll be sad about this loss, and we'll be frustrated about this loss, and we will be very sad about this loss. I just got a text saying Wisconsin and High Point is must-see TV, so I guess we got to go watch that game here in a second. But look, March Madness is here. On the bright side, at least Ohio State lost as early as they could have, so now we can just watch our brackets get busted and watch March Madness without the stress of Ohio State. I don't know. I guess that's the reality. This sucks. This does suck, but it is what it is. So, Buckeyes lose this game to TCU. We move forward in coverage of Ohio State basketball. At this point, Buckeyes lose. Buckeyes fail to get it done down the stretch, and we will look forward to watching Ohio State and seeing what they can do here in the transfer portal. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you don't miss a second of all the coverage here on the Views from the Shop podcast. We move along. Thanks so much for listening to today's show, watching live. If you did, again, I don't know how to cap off an episode like this. I'll be back next week to kind of give a postmortem of Ohio State. Until then, I shut up before you shut me off. Enjoy March Madness.